So, my dear friend, we are in the step number 3 out of the 40 steps. The first part we have covered uh, in relationship to the purities and the impurities of the mind. So, the first step was that we discussed about the right knowledge about the real self and what is not self. Once we understand that, then we start applying that knowledge in our daily life as a duty and responsibility. Duty and responsibility covers the two-fold action. And we have also understood that we perform the duty and responsibility. We don't get any reward, but if we don't do it, we are punished. What is that punishment? Anxiety, stress, duality, conflict, etc., etc. Unfavorable circumstances where the mind gets agitated. That is why I named it Purify the Mind in the first step. And the third step, obviously, once we start performing our action as a duty and responsibility and drop those actions which are obsessed with a desire and expectation from the world outside, then what happens? The mind becomes free because we are not expecting anything, but we are performing our duties and our journey in the life. So it means you are bringing down that real self, that knowledge into daily life. Then comes the now see that you are performing your duty and responsibilities very well. Even everything is going on very well in your life. But then subtle ego connects with the past impressions, and that makes the journey stressful. That makes the journey stressful. And we are living in two planes of life. When I'm doing sadhana practice, I'm very happy. I have understood. I claim that I have understood everything. But the second plane, facing the challenges, and I say, no, I'm a good guy. But the subtle ego constantly working inside. How to destroy that? To replace that subtle, even if it is positive ego, so that our journey continues. That is why we started with the real self and the duty and the responsibility in the first two steps. So there are 40 steps. They are progressive. According to Shankara, who has authored this very small book, 5 verses, 40 steps. The beauty of these 40 steps that it covers more than thousands of the text. So those who have a clear understanding of those texts, so they refer the text to explain these steps. That is what we are understanding. So each step helps us to know where we are and what we need to do to continue the journey. Each step shows us what we have not done, what needs to be done. Internally, it prepares us to become a seeker. From the mild seeker to the medium seeker, from the medium seeker to an intense seeker. So the question comes, what is this being an intense seeker? Because you have done a lot of practices. We treated the path together for many weeks and months and I would say years, but still something is blocking us. And that is why I brought the topic of becoming an intense seeker. Intense seeker doesn't mean that you are running and running and getting exhausted. You should have an intensity in the material world. You have to show your excitement and energy. No. We are not talking of that. Understand that. I'm bringing this topic today only for you. So seeking is there and searching is there. Seeking follows. Seeking means listening to the principles, understanding it with clarity and conviction. Why I said with clarity and conviction? Because if you don't have a clarity, the mind and its impurity is blocking us. Conviction, the mind has a doubt. So what we need? A doubt-free mind. One plus purity of the mind. Not getting too much obsessed and inclined with lot of expectations causing the anxiety and the anger and the reaction and the greed and the delusion and the pride and the jealousy. So you see that the mind says, I have read it, I studied, I understand it, but did that understanding inspires us to change from what is not desire to what is desire? That makes us a intense seeker. So we can say that I'm an intense seeker. Very good. So now just let me give you a current example. Dr. Fauci, our great expert on infectious diseases, he has an experience, I would say, for the last 50 years. I think you better know it. So he says that you must wear a mask. Second statement, he says, you must be vaccinated. Who is Dr. Fauci? 50 years of experience, and he has an understanding. He says with an authority. Authority means clarity and conviction, and the clarity and conviction comes from his knowledge of the infectious diseases. I follow it. I must wear a mask. I must get vaccinated when my turn comes. That is the teaching of the master. So you don't go into understanding the biochemistry and the chemistry of that vaccine. You believe, you trust. That is one way. That is how we have been continuing the journey, because you trusted it. Take an example of Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So normally people say, I find very good when you are chanting, your voice is very good. That doesn't matter. What matters whether the Om Shanti 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 as a vaccine has gone deep inside our mind and intellect. Why? Clarity and conviction, doubt-free mind. And that can happen only when we are a seeker, intense seeker. So I'm just bringing that topic, I'm mixing this topic so that it becomes clear. So there is one Upanishad. Upanishads are great text. Their numbers is over, I think, 365. 108 are considered uh, very, it is very well known, and we have the manuscripts of those. And out of the 108, 10 principal Upanishads are there. It doesn't mean that others are not important, depending on the level of a seeker. So now, what the Kathopanishad says. Many do not have the opportunity to hear, to listen from the teacher, the teachings aimed at self-discovery. Good. You don't have an opportunity, you have not heard it. But now you have heard it. People have heard about it, but they lack the ability to understand it. So what you are doing is good. You pick up the book, you read it, but reading alone is not enough. So this Upanishad says, even if one hears, they lack the ability to understand because they are not following the master in a seeker tradition. Why? These verses, these teachings are encrypted. They are a royal secret, but still an open secret, I discussed before. So that open secret is revealed only to a seeker, and what we are understanding in becoming an intense seeker. So many people do not have the opportunity to listen to it. Even if one listens, they lack the ability to understand. But even if one understands, they lack the patience to practice. And even if they practice, they lack the courage to firmly be grounded in the practice. The Master says, only a handful few will attain. It is the ultimate knowledge that we are not a drop in an ocean, but an ocean in a drop. We are in an ocean, in a drop. What is that drop? The mind finds limited by the body, by the mind, by the intellect, by the ego. But when we go inside, we find an ocean of real self. That is, once we find it, this is known as awakening, this is known as peace. But now, so that intensity of being a seeker, I just thought that I should add this topic before we continue with the step number 3. So, natural state of the mind. Natural state of the mind is reflecting constantly, 24/7, the real self. Now see that what the Master says again, that the mind, natural state is always there. But I don't see that because the impurity, because the doubt-free mind is not there. So, what needs to be done? First, we should keep the goal of life all the time. We should be vigilant and aware of the goal of our life. Otherwise, how much purity is there in the mind, how much we study, mind will go back to its instinctive, its habitual, its impulsive, its impurity routine. And what about the goals in life? We are already performing the duty and the responsibility that we understand in the second step. So because I'm performing my duty and responsibility without any reward and punishment. So what is going to happen? That karma, that action will continue to purify my mind every day. You don't say that, oh, I have cleaned my bedroom today and now I will do it after a year. I have gone to the restroom today in the morning and I will go after a week. Every day. Every moment. Every day and every moment. So we don't allow the mind to become habitual, and ultimately this mind discovers, oh, this is my natural state, why I am sticking and attached to this. But there is a caveat, the ego sense, even if I am doing something very good in my life all the time, I bear an ego sense. It is very pure, it is very comforting. But that also becomes a stumbling block in the journey of the self-discovery. That is why the Master put this as a step 3 out of the step 40. You have to, he is warning us, he's cautioning us. Going beyond means the mind must know. Now we are directly hitting the step number 3. So step number 3, oh, you have built a good ego, pure ego, ripe ego. Yes, you understand that ego should not be built on the wealth or the women or the possessions outside. So hence I am aware. But that I am aware is a ripe ego. We have to break this cycle of the ripe ego also. So first we understand that I am insignificant in the world of activity. Whatever I am doing, whatever the way I am living my personal, professional, social life, I am a doer and the enjoyer. Am I really significant? So after understanding, I maintain that awareness. How small my body is as compared to this room I am sitting in. Maybe if I consider this body as one box, and if I have to find out how many boxes of this body, one body, is there in this room, perhaps maybe 2,000 boxes. So I'm smaller by 2,000 times as compared to this room from where I'm speaking. What about the home? Maybe 100,000 times. How smaller I am as compared to the town I'm living. You just think of it. At thinking and becoming aware. Thinking means contemplating, and becoming aware. How smaller I am as compared to this county, township, county, state, country, continent, earth, solar system, galaxy. Am I really significant? Am I really significant? You see that this is a delusion. Delusion means what appears to me is true, but it is not true. Let us take another example. Take a globe, the map, the world map. Put it on the wall. Good. Now, ask yourself and ask your mind and the eyes to see on the map where, in which country you live in. I'm creating just, you visualize that. There's a map in front of you. So I'm living in US. Very good. So this is the map of the US. Now go to the state. In which state I'm living? Arizona. Very good. I can see the Arizona, yes. In which county I live? Maricopa County. I still see it. Okay, very good. So which township I live in? Whatever it is, Gilbert, Mesa, Chandler, Phoenix. I see that Phoenix is a dot. Oh, here is a Phoenix. Which street I live in? Can I see it? No. Pay attention. Where is my house? Somewhere in that Phoenix. But I don't see the dot in the map. But I feel I'm living in such a big house, in a big room. But I don't see there. Are you getting it? Are you getting it? I am significant or insignificant? As you see that, what appears true I'm living in that house, which appears to me, even this room appears to me 10,000 smaller than me. But I don't see. When I see the truth in the map. It relieves you from that ego. So being insignificant, feeling that, is not taking you to the stress and the suffering. Normally, people have an idea that if I have an ego, what is ego? Ego means the ego only enters in our head or the mind when it is related, it takes the shape either with the possession or with the wealth or with identification with the body. So the example points out how the mind, living a normal life, enters into a kind of delusion. And once we enter into a delusion, then the mind has to become impure again and again. Then doubt-free mind is gone. We have all the doubts. Then what happens? The mind starts running and doing the same thing again and again and again. Go back to the seeker, I said. I have heard it. Lack understanding. No, even though I understand it, I don't have a patience. From patience to sincerity to commitment, and that everything slips down from our life within a second. The same way, if we find another delusion in time, I am significant in time or I am insignificant in time. 24 hours. Yesterday what I did, I enjoyed what I did. So I will try to do it the same way today. And then today I find lot of challenges, unfavorable conditions. Then I feel stressed. In stress and anxiety, the mind says the time is not passing by. Time is so long. In joy and pleasure, Time is so short. Is it a delusion or a fact or a reality? Time is time. 1 hour is 1 hour. Time is not passing by. So when we understand simple, same way, like we found ourselves, we cannot find our own home in the map. Same way, do we really find ourselves in time? 100 years, 120 years. As compared to billions of years have already passed, and as compared to the millions of years are ahead. That 100 years or 150 years or 200 years compared to the billions of years is totally insignificant. But I make myself totally significant in relationship to the others, with attachment, with detachment, with pleasure and also with pain. With profit and with loss. With challenges in the life and opportunities in the life. Well, we measure in time. But that time is still 100 or maximum 200 years. Take it that as a human being we live for 200 years. So you see the pointer in the second step, that I am performing my duty and responsibility. That continues to purify the mind. And at the same time, the step 3, am I really significant in time? The answer is no. So that no with a reference to the purity of the mind and the doubt-free knowledge. In a positive sense. So what happens? What should I do? I should live from moment to moment. What that means? I should live consciously. I should be vigilant that the impurity of the mind should not attack me. And at the same time, the ego should not support, even if I am doing everything good. Let that ego be offered to the existence. It belongs to you. I am not the doer. I am not the enjoyer. Third step. So what changes that enters into our life? I wake up in the morning. I am aware of my duty and responsibility. The mind does not have any expectation in the desire, but still I have to perform my duty and responsibility, not to seek a reward, but I have to do it. So it gives me a clarity of the mind. At the same time, I don't see that I am the doer and the enjoyer. Inside, it is just a play and a fun, performing my role very well every day. I start living from moment to moment, but still I find the hindrance. The ego becomes the doer. Even when it is good, we don't notice it. When we are a wonderful person, we don't notice it. So the master is pointing out, just become aware. You are not the doer and the enjoyer. Offer all your activities and the good work to the existence. Whether we create an image of a god or a teacher. I used to offer everything to my teacher. Because, when we say offer everything to the existence, the mind says, what is this existence? What is the shape? Let my master, let any form of an image, let be an higher altar. Let it be Shiva or Krishna as an image. Don't you write an image about your project in the business? And if I say, what the project you have written on the paper? I know, I can see that you have written $10 million you'll be earning in 6 months. This is all paper. No, it is a project I will carry out. I will implement. So what's the problem with an image of a Shiva? Oh, all actions are being done by the Shiva. I am not the doer and the enjoyer. What a big deal. So what is this step when you offer, when your mind becomes aware, conscious, say for example of the Shiva, when you become aware of the project that you have written on the paper to achieve $10 million within a period of 6 months, what it does. The same way the Shiva also does the same thing. Yeah, thy will be done. You are doing it. I am not. This step is like it is like you run, you open the water flow to clean the impurities, and it continues to flow with a greater force. The second step, just you bring the gallon of water to purify. But this becomes one of the biggest steps in our daily life. How much water with your pipe that you clean your front yard? And if there is a heavy rain, cleanliness comes so easily. So this is what the heavy rain water cleanses the mind, is the third step. What you're doing nothing. And what you have done, just you have removed the wrong notion and the delusion that we are doing a good work. A sense of ego is gone. This is what the step 3 tells us. Let us pick up a couple of smaller aspects that you have done it, but I'm repeating for the sake of installing in your mind. Problem 1 is commitment. In the mind is not there. I have not chosen the knowledge of the reality exclusively. Why? Because I miss sometimes and I return again. I miss sometime and I return again. What should we do before going to sleep? Have that commitment. Repeat it mentally. Before you wake up, repeat the commitment. Remind yourself, recall, give an assurance to the mind. This is the journey I'm going to undertake. That is what we do with reference to agenda, routine, our daily work. Why we say that? Why we need to do that? Two things. When we lie down on the bed and we're retiring to the bed to go to sleep, desire also sleeps with us. Or you can say the impurities of the mind that is present at the subtler level also sleeps with us. So they are working in deep sleep even when we do not know it. So what we are going, we say before going to sleep, let's have an intense desire for the self-discovery. What I am, what I have, what I possess, all belongs to you, existence. It has come from you and it is going to go to the existence. Let me discover permanent peace and happiness, love and wisdom within me before going to sleep. So what you are saying? You are consciously creating a desire before sleep. The time will come in 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Then this desire will continue to work in your mind, bypassing those desires which causes the impurities in the mind. And when you wake up in the morning, what happens? That desire will enter into your mind at the time the waking. Those desires will not enter. So repeat it again in the morning. How long it takes? It takes about even not more than a minute or 2 minutes. Take it 5 minutes. So now with that desire for self-discovery, that inspires my daily agenda. I am not stopping anything what I am doing outside. But the mind inside changes the entire perception. And that will help us to understand also what we discussed. Insignificant to become significant in light of the existence. You see that we use those phrases, and it is not that I am insignificant, that I should enter into the stress and suffering. No. Insignificant to the delusion so that I become significance to the knowledge of the reality. That is the entire understanding that makes me an intense seeker and drop that ego sense. Now let us, we may understand that sense of commitment. My mind is constantly wanting, seeking happiness from the real self. My mind is constantly moving to the Shreyas. You have understood what is right and good. My mind is seeking and searching in the field of the Shreyas. The Shreyas becomes the driving force, and I am seeking and searching happiness from the real self. So what happens? 24/7. You are almost settled. You are working even for 10 hours every day, but you are settled. Settled leaves the mind pure, leaves the mind doubt-free, continues to inspire. How it happens? It happens by viveka. Again, I'm linking for you. Normally these principles are not connected when we guide and educate the beginners. And the viveka will lead you to dispassion. And dispassion will lead you to the 6 treasures, so you are settled in the 6 treasures. So another challenge comes when the knowledge is not available. And the knowledge is available, that's what we are continuing the journey. So I need not to discuss that point again. But one thing is important. When that knowledge is not available, you see that We are born and brought up in a rich family. We start working, all kinds of the pleasure, and the mind never enters into the wisdom, even after knowing that the wealth cannot buy happiness, the wealth cannot buy peace, and still everyone knows it. That is what I mean by knowledge is not available. Everyone knows it. Who is fairly intelligent, we know it. Wealth cannot buy happiness. Honey cannot buy peace. But when we don't ask in next question, what should we do? But now when we know it is the real self, now the knowledge is available. So the mind takes the right path. That is what I wanted to say. Commitment and knowledge are available. Commitment and the knowledge is available. But the patience, perseverance is not there. Why? Or let me take it, the pleasure intellect returns, forces us to return to the world. Pleasure intellect, not the viveka intellect returns to the world. When the viveka intellect returns to the world, then I see, okay, I see, sky is not blue, knowledge is inside. So the mind is still settled into that state. So even after knowing and understanding, we have to be vigilant to use the viveka intellect, not the pleasure intellect. And that pleasure intellect is converted into an awareness of my duty and the responsibility, nitya and the naimitya karma that I discussed in the step number 2. Another challenge that comes, that is what our master speaks, The master says mudha. Mudha means foolishness. That very foolishness, again I'm stressing the point of a delusion. Foolish means I'm working because of out of the delusion, or a deluded state of the mind. So I already gave an example. Think of it again and again. It's a big room. 1,000 times bigger than my body. Where it is in the map? Nowhere. I don't see even my house. What to talk about my room? Anybody's house. Whether one lives in mansion or one lives in a small house, doesn't matter. So what happens with that? That very ego, that possessor in me melts away. So that foolishness goes away. Foolishness means living, mind constantly living in delusion. Drops the wrong notion in the ideas. And at that moment we say, I offer all my actions, my doership and enjoyership to the existence, to the Shiva. Why? You are doing everything, Shiva is doing everything, Shiva is the doer and the enjoyer. Why the Shiva is the doer and the enjoyer? What the heck in it? So I'm aware I am not my eyes, so eyes cannot be the doer. I am not my mind and the body, so the body and the mind cannot be the doer. I am not my intellect. Intellect is separate and different from me. I am not the doer and the enjoy. So from where the doer has come, it appears as a delusion in the intellect. So when I claim that I am the doer and the enjoyer, whether it is good or bad, it creates a delusion in the mind and it prevents us to discover our real self. So I say, okay, there is no one, but doer is there, something is being done. Oh, then I implant and install the image of a Shiva. I gave an example, agenda on your paper, a map on the paper, a project on the paper. Ah, the Shiva, I see that Shiva inside. You are the doer and the enjoyer. The mind remains settled completely within. I can tell you, it gives you a tremendous energy, a smile, a peace on your face, and a joy in every activity of your life. Step number 3. We can understand another point here, that what is the indication to have the pure mind? The pure mind is always looking at the reality. Pure mind is always seeking and searching the real self. That is the guarantee. That is an indication. I see my honey. Am I seeing the pure, through the pure mind? It is seeing the reality in my honey, my son, my daughter, my friends, my relations, my enemies, my house. You see, the transformation of the mind takes place. The transformation of the mind takes place. The ego also takes another form, so we have to be aware of that. By understanding and reflecting on, when the mind is pure, does the weight and the shape and the size and the color of the mind change? No. See that. That's a big point one master pointed out. Perhaps in the Upanishad, that meant it. Does the shape, size, color of the mind changes when the mind is impure? No. That drives us because we don't see anything tangible. So this mind says, I don't see anything tangible. Let me continue to live with the pain, pleasure, profit, loss, sorrow, happiness, duality, delusion, conflict. That is the way the life, because I don't see anything. No. Can you see the knowledge? Can you see the understanding? Can you see the awareness? Can you see consciousness through your sense organs in the mind? On the other hand, when we live into that state, we are always full of that tremendous energy and enthusiasm. Now coming to the end of this step number 3, dedicate all my actions as if I am offering to you, Shiva. I am offering to you, Shiva. I become the trustee of my body, of my mind, of my intellect, of my ego, of the knowledge in the mind. Trustee. So trustee means I am not the owner. So I am not the owner. Then where the ego will come? Think of it. So what is that ownership? Is the ego sense. So what we are doing, dedicate all those actions as a worship unto the Shiva. I have released the burden that I have been carrying in entire life, that I am the doer. I am not the owner, so how can I be the doer? I am a trustee. So what happens in that process? We become an intense seeker. So the entire process in the beginning, we starting with the step 2, we continue to do our duty and responsibility as if it needs to be done, it ought to be done, it must be done without fail. If I do it, I don't get any reward, so that we don't build our ego. And when we don't do it, we are punished, creating the unfavorable circumstances in our family, professional, and social life. And then, as we continue with this, now internally, with contemplation and reflection, I am offering all my karma, good or bad, high or low, small or big, to the Shiva, sitting, dwelling inside me. So I am replacing that ego center with the Shiva. Shiva is known as the higher altar. Take any image, or even if you don't want to take an image, they offer it to their existence. And we add one spice with love. We should be adding a love there, an emotion there. So you are thinking, manually I'm offering this work to the Shiva. Done. And gradually you will add another element, reflection. So this third step, in fact, releases the mind from its very subtle attachment. And once you release yourself from the subtle attachment, those 6 enemies do not enter into your life. Do you remember the desire, the greed, the anxiety, anger, delusion, pride, and the jealousy? So instead they are replaced by the 6 treasures: sam, dam, uparati, titiksha, shraddha, samadhanam. So the step 3 deals very deeply from the physical, subtle, and the subtlest level of our attachment, and the 4th step deals with physical, subtlest level of detachment. That is why we say dedicate all your karma to the existence, as if every karma is done for the evolution, not for others, not for me. It will drop the idea of ego and the selfishness. The mind becomes free of the bondage of thought doing something is gone. And it will break the shell of ego. What happens then? When we break the shell of that subtlest ego, then the knowledge descends down into your heart, into your mind. Even listening and understanding drops you into the deeper and the higher state of meditation. So, dedication, commitment, and offering to the higher altar. The higher altar is what we call God or existence. So, here we take an image of a Shiva. When you practice this, what is going to happen? It will stop the sense organs running outward. Even if you're seeing everything outward, you are totally engaged. It keeps our ego in check. It keeps the impurity also in check. What happens actually? We'll take that in a later, but just to give a reference, you are living to make the existence happy. You are living, working, thinking to remain in tune with the very existence. Ego separates us. Yeah. So, and then what happens? We are absorbed into a deeper state of meditation. Thank you. We'll do it